Hello everyone and welcome to another video on Assassin's Creed. In this one I thought it'd be interesting to talk about some things I think the series shouldn't do. Well, I didn't think that. I got the idea from Council of Geeks, who did the same thing with Doctor Who, which is pretty cool, and I thought it'd be interesting to do with AC, so credit to them for this idea. Anyway, these things can be as small as the way the combat or free running flows, or could be as big as the premise of certain games or narratives. The only rule I've set is that these can't have been things that I've done before, as that just get a bit boring. So anyway, let's get into this. Alright, now the first thing on this list that I don't want the series to do is become a shooter under any circumstances. Plenty of people have said they want games in one of the world wars or the mafia for some reason, when that clearly just isn't what Assassin's Creed is about. Just because Assassin's Creed is a good series and you have an interesting setting doesn't mean the two will work together, and that goes for all settings that would have to make the series a shooter. For one thing, it'd take a whole lot away from the series' niche. To the casual gamer, they go after Assassin's Creed to climb things and stab people and maybe get engaged in its story. And actually, those are a few of the reasons I play Assassin's Creed too. And those things that the series does, they do best. Like if you're after a parkour game or a game where there's lots of like sword fighting, you're probably going to go for Assassin's Creed. Make it a shooter, and there's going to be games out there that do it better, and it's also just going to make the series far more generic, and I have no idea why anyone would want that. And I just generally don't like guns in AC, so I think we should keep the setting not to a point where there are no guns necessarily, but not to a point where melee weapons are completely redundant. Before the 20th century at the very least. Alright then, so number 4 is one I've only seen recommended once, but with the way the series is going, we might see some more people ask for it, potentially. And that's a customizable character akin to something like Saints Row or Skyrim. I don't mind customization itself, it's something I quite like in Unity in fact, but by this I mean a fully customizable protagonist, which is bound to be bad. For one, Ubisoft's facial animations can be dodgy to non-existent on the best of the days for main characters, so then to have one of your own is bound to end badly. As well, you could still have a pre-written story for them, but it'd just be odd, wouldn't it? And the game would just end up being far less serious as a result. Now, the third thing I don't want the series to do is to go any further back. I took issue with Odyssey being set before Origins, but at this point I think it's safe to say we've gone back as far as we should. Otherwise, the franchise is just going to feel like an anthology of historical adventures as opposed to one with an overarching narrative and the titular assassins. I think from here, I'd like to see more about the assassins in the first millennia of the AD. It's one of the reasons I'm so excited about Ragnarok. There's so much to learn about the Brotherhood in that time period, and I'm really interested as to how we went from the Hidden Ones to the Levantine assassins. And even if it isn't the Hidden Ones, or isn't the assassins as we know them, we still need Assassin's Creed to feature the assassins. I've avoided saying it on the channel because it's been said so much, but it's true. We need the assassins in Assassin's Creed, otherwise it simply doesn't belong in the franchise. Now, the penultimate thing on this list that I don't want the series to ever do is remove the modern day. This is probably the one I've seen asked about the most, and just no. Absolutely no. When Patrice envisioned the franchise, the modern day was crucial, and he kept that going until he left, and after he did, the modern day started to suffer. I think the first 3 are brilliant, then Revelations is a bit of a drop, but still good. 3, not so much, and everything after that has just been bad. But instead of just removing it, it should be fixed. It definitely feels like Patrice was the most passionate about the modern day, not only in the fact it dropped off after he left, but also just seeing him in interviews and all of that stuff, and we need that passion for the modern day again. The modern day is a huge part of the series. It's not even a part of the series, it is the series. The series doesn't function without it, and it helps ground the series and makes the overarching narratives work so much better. Going from Altair to Ezio to Connor made sense given what the modern day Brotherhood were after, whereas there's no rhyme or reason really for us following the assassins we do most of the time, and that usually just gets thrown to the side anyway. I know this has turned into a bit of a rant about the state of the modern day, but to summarise it, it just needs fixing. It needs to be great, and it should be great, not removed, not ever. So I had a lot of choice for the number 1 slot, and I chose a first Civ game. There's plenty of game ideas out there that are bad for the series. I mentioned a few earlier, and I had a few I could have picked, but I ended up picking a first Civilization game. I love the first Civilization. The intrigue of them was just one of the things that pulled me into the series, but an entire game where we play as the first Civ sounds honestly awful. Something great about the first Civ is the mystique around them and how they're like humans, but so much more. And it's been great to have that like drip fed to us sort of, and I like the idea of it remaining this sort of fantasy. But then if we saw the world, it'd take away from that a whole lot. I don't want to know how the first Civ stayed entertained, how their economy functioned, or what they thought of Game of Thrones Season 8. I just want them to keep their image, and I feel like a lot of us as AC fans have built up an image of their society, not in a literal sense because we saw that to an extent at the end of Revelations, but I mean the more deeper kind of question that come out with a first Civ game. As well, what would the gameplay even look like? Because I really don't want to be in like a Quebec-made Assassin's Creed first Civ game, and to be in like a conversation with Jupiter, and to have the option to either chin him or do him, or something like that. To be honest though, it is the Assassin's Creed fandom. Someone probably wants that. I personally really just don't. Alright then guys, that has been it for today. Is there anything on here that you disagree with? Some things here that you like? Some other things you don't want the series to ever do that you've seen people talk about? Let me know. I'm really interested in what you guys have to think. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.